You never know on a journey when you're gonna run into someone who gets you, sees you, is friggin' brilliant beyond measure until you do. So I'm part of a networking group and I sift through, there's a lot of people that aren't fits, but every so often direct hit. And I reached out to Richard and just to get to know him and see what there was. And oh my God, his heart, his brain, his passion, his vision, his wisdom, especially when it comes to some of his videos that have gone viral around parental alienation. I said, oh my God, we need to connect for a Zoom. And he's got his British accent, and I don't know if I'm doing a very good British accent, but I had no idea that he was gonna move to Austin because his number shows up as like England. And I was going to Austin. So I had the pleasure of being able to interview him in studio. My assistant and I, who was in the studio, we're just like blown away by how smart he is, passionate he is, the difference this man is here to make on the planet. Oh my God. Okay, so that's just how amazing Richard is. And then, since the filming of the podcast, Gabriel called. 6 years, nothing. And I posted and he responded and he was so happy for me because he gets it. He studies it. He researches it. He's here to make a difference on the planet to support healthier relationships. Well, a lot of things. He's a breathwork master, guru, but also he's very much here to help a new conversation regarding parental alienation. So it felt so good that he was so happy that we have finally reconnected. Enjoy this profound conversation with Richard Blake. Beautiful sister, take a breath with me. Oh, when was the last time you felt really grounded in your body, still in your mind, truly in love with yourself? Not fixing yourself, not striving to be different, just loving your sweet self exactly as you are. I know you've probably been strong for everybody else, yet this is your moment now, an invitation to be there for you. To say yes to not just the bare minimum, but your real needs, to listen to the truth of your body, to slow down and hear the deepest truth of your heart, to face what you've been perhaps avoiding so that you can embody your authentic feminine power. And you don't have to do this alone. Like so many others before you, we can partner in divine sisterhood. The divine feminine way is to collaborate, to open our hearts together into the glorious great unknown, the mystery. So I invite you to go to alanapratt.com/connect and book a call with me today. We will get through any shadow to the light of your fullest glory together. Promise. Welcome to Intimate Conversations, Season 14, Dark Night to Divine Light, because we both know intimacy is an inside job. Hello and welcome to another episode of Intimate Conversations, Season 14, from Dark Night to Divine Light. With a new friend that I've made, we met through a networking group, and I personally just got on with him like a house on fire because he gets it. He gets it. He gets it. So the amazing Dr. Richard Blake, thank you for being here.
Hi, Alana. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, let me tell them all about your amazingness. He has a PhD in psychology and is known for challenging the way mental health is discussed and treated today. His research focuses on anxiety, breath work, and nervous system regulation, including the largest randomized controlled trial on conscious connected breath work to date. He's built a following of over 113,000 on Instagram, where his evidence-based reels critiquing therapy culture, trauma inflation, and mental health misinformation have gone viral. And alongside his research, his work on family estrangement examines how therapeutic language and ideology can shape relationships, often with unintended consequences. Richard's broader aim is to move mental health away from ideology and moral narratives and back towards evidence, physiology, and approaches that genuinely help people recover rather than stay stuck. You can find out more at richardlblake.com. He works privately with people, breathwork, and he has a book coming out. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here. Yeah, you're really focused on this book right now. Just let's start there. What is it called? When's it coming out? Why are you writing it?
So it's called The Anxiety Industry. It's unknown when it's coming out. It is still a book in progress. I mean, it's nearly there, but probably have to wait. The reason I started writing it is because I started making reels on Instagram about a year ago, and some of them really blew up and really took off. And I was a little bit surprised at the ones that really took off. Like, I guess people aren't that interested in breath work and nervous system regulation. Like, people know it's good. But what really took off was when I was saying, like, suggesting therapy and therapy culture might be partly causing the rise in family estrangement. And then I also did another one looking at Freud versus Adler. It was basically suggesting that we have a mental health crisis because we followed the wrong guy. We followed Freud instead of Adler. Freud was more about what happened to you, who did things to you, let's process this endlessly. And Adler was more like, things that happen in your life matter, but what matters more is your habits, your environment, your mindset, what you're doing in terms of meaning and purpose. And I feel like that resonated with a lot of people because we have this thing called the treatment prevalence paradox. And that is, as from Jorm 2019, they're an Australian researcher along with his colleagues, basically asking this question. We've got more mental health awareness. We've got more people in therapy than at any point in history. Yet mental illness statistics are not going down like they are in cancer and heart disease. In cancer and heart disease and diabetes, as people enter treatment, rates go down. With mental illness, more people entering therapy, more people getting mentally ill. So why might that be? A lot of people come up with answers like climate anxiety, the economy, social injustice, all those things, which are probably a part of it. But what people don't really want to look at is perhaps it's the therapies themselves causing the problems.
Okay, so thank you. Yes. I'm a coach, not a therapist, for this very reason. It wasn't working for me. I was becoming more of a victim, a bigger blamer of myself and others. That's just my own personal experience. What's your personal experience been?
I had a lot of mental health issues as a younger man, depression, anxiety, suicide attempts, binge eating disorder, trichotillomania, pulling my eyebrows out, all sorts of things.
You've got great eyebrows.
Well, thank you. Then I went into therapy. I kind of hit rock bottom. Someone put me into therapy. I had tried a few therapists. First few didn't really resonate with, felt like they were falling asleep. Then I met a guy who was amazing, like a really top quality therapist, went to Cambridge, super high intelligent, and really got me off rock bottom. I didn't overcome the binge eating and a lot of the other stuff until I discovered this conscious connected breath work that I did my randomized control trial on. So I sort of simultaneously started a master's in psychotherapy in the UK whilst training in conscious connected breathwork. And I did about 2 years of this master's degree, and I went in there being like, therapy's the best. Everyone should be in therapy. It's so effective, and the more therapy, the better. There's no downsides to it. And then to the university's credit, we actually had a module on Thomas Saz. He's quite a famous critic of psychotherapy. He basically, one of his famous lines is, we don't have an epidemic of mental illness, we have an epidemic of psychiatry. So meaning that the psychiatrists are causing a lot of the problems. And I kind of that sort of lit a fuse in me. It's like, oh wow, maybe there are some downsides. And those whole times I was writing essays on like why existential therapy is amazing for addiction, and I was like, oh wow, talk therapy only has an 8% success rate for addiction. And then it was like, oh yeah, but it definitely works for anxiety. And then it's like, oh, actually, when you take out attrition, meaning people who quit, it may only be about 25% of people who actually benefit, who recover from anxiety with talk therapy. And then the relapse rates, again, are about 48%. And so I was sort of fighting this tide, being like, no, let's ignore that. Let's ignore this bad research. There must be better research. But then when I actually did find these big meta-analyses by like Pim Kuipers, who's done a lot of these big studies, I just kind of gave up, and I was like, I actually have to face reality here. Talk-based therapy is not what it's been sold as. And at the same time, I was doing case studies with conscious connected breathwork clients, and people were having these unbelievable experiences, deep senses of meaning, complete like remission of the problems they were dealing with.
Wow.
And this was during the pandemic, and I was working for a charity called Duty to Care, and they were giving free services to National Health Service staff. So all the doctors, nurses, psychologists, nutritionists were getting free services from people like me to deal with the stress from COVID. And I would get calls from these doctors and psychologists being like, oh, so you're a breath worker. What's the evidence base? I'd like to give it a try. And I was like, there isn't really any. Sorry, there's a pre-study from 1993 with 5 people. And they were just like, no, I couldn't even give it away.
Wow.
So I was like, I took a bit of a break from the psychotherapy. I was like, I really need to think this through. And during that break, actually during a float tank session, I was like, I need to do some research on breath work. I already had a master's in real estate from a previous life. So I don't need another master's. Let's go for the next level. Let's do a PhD. Let's do a research program. So applied for this research program in San Francisco. And that's when I conducted this randomized control trial that went really well. Had 108 participants, pretty decent sample size. We had statistical significance and a large effect size. So that's quite a big thing in research, is effect size.
What does that mean? Effect size?
So a lot of people think about p-values, like is it chance or is it down to the therapy itself? And with SSRIs and talk-based therapies, they generally have like decent p-values, but they have small effect sizes. So it's basically like how much does it help someone? And talk-based therapy has an effect size lower than a good night's sleep and exercise.
Lower than a good night's sleep. Wow. Okay. So let me just put this in and then let's keep going. So I, as I said, became a coach, not a therapist, because it didn't work for me. Most recently, so I've been doing this for 22 years. The last 5 or 6 years, I started doing psychedelic somatic integration work. Saj Razvi, head of education for Psychedelic Somatic Institute, 10,000 hours MAPS trials, PTSD victims, 3 sessions, no more PTSD symptoms. And tier 1 in the body, I had done psychedelics 25 years ago, tier 3, leaving the body, ayahuasca, beautiful experiences, but didn't do shit for my own trauma in my body. Loved this, and the statistics on the white paper from Saj, what did it, 17 to 24% success rate with cognitive talk, what is it called? CBD, that decreases over time. And then this use of low dose psychedelics, one-on-one, stay in the body, emotions, body sensation, incredible results. So I began it personally, and now I facilitate it with my clients. And I'm gonna like a hockey stick. I'm Canadian, but like the results. I would work with somebody for 5 years to get them there. We'd get there because I've just always been drawn towards the more somatic, feeling the feeling, trusting the autonomic nervous system. It knows knows how to get back to zero if you can create the safety. I've watched this, but as soon as I added this use of psychedelics to it, crazy results, so fast, sustainable, embodied freedom and different results in their life. So that's been my path. What is the gentleman that wrote, is it, I wish I'd remembered, but it's the gentleman that wrote about sacred sexuality, psychedelics, breath work. Like these are all forms that are different than the regular therapy that are creating incredible results. Okay. I'm hitting it back over to you.
Thank you. Yes. So I love psychedelics. I've done an apprenticeship in Peru with the Shipibo tribe. I'm not a medicine pourer, but I did a little, like a month-long immersion there. Huge fan of it. During that time, I was actually when I was like, sort of being like, should I research ayahuasca or should I research breath work?
Interesting.
And I actually got got the download, got the message saying there's loads of people doing ayahuasca research, not enough people doing breathwork research. Go on that team, but you know, still be supportive. I write for a journal, or like a plant medicine journal called Onaya as well, and they're basically, they're just so synergistic. They work really well together.
I agree, yeah.
And they can be similar. Some people report conscious connected breathwork is more potent than ayahuasca and psilocybin. And I'm speaking at a breathwork conference in Berlin soon, and there's a lady there who is doing a research study called Martha Havenith, and she's basically finally got the funding to test whether or not DMT is released during breathwork, which is the active ingredient in ayahuasca. I had her on my podcast, and I said, no, that sounds like bro science to me. And she's much better research. She's a full-on professor. She's like, no, I think it is DMT. So I would back her rather than me, but I'm still thinking it's more likely to be changes in cerebral hemodynamics and brainwaves. So that is studies that have already been done. Camille Bahi and a lady at University of Sussex, where they have a breathwork lab. They've basically done MRIs and fMRIs and EEG scans showing that breathwork changes brainwaves and blood flow to the same extent as a moderate dose of psilocybin. There's also the serotonin 5-2A hypothesis. So that comes from Robin Carhart Harris, who's done a lot of the research on psilocybin. And their mechanism is basically during psilocybin and breathwork, you're upregulating the serotonin 5-2A receptors in the brain, which basically means you are creating a huge amount of plasticity in the brain.
That was my next question. Yeah.
So this is kind of why talk-based therapy, I think, gets stuck for a lot of people, because just understanding your problems doesn't change your problems or your habits or your behaviors, whereas plasticity is an evolutionary mechanism. So it's like, you know, someone has, you know, they smoke in their whole life, right? And then they have a kid, and then they stop smoking. I realized I couldn't keep smoking anymore because I've got a life to look after. Similarly, let's say when we were living in tribes, the tribe leader gets eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. We could just stay there and just, you know, keep our plasticity and then get eaten the next day by the saber-toothed tiger. But no, when a really big life event happens, we need plasticity to make behavioral changes to go and save our lives or protect our lives from actual threats and things like that. So breathwork and ayahuasca and mushrooms seem like a way to create this plasticity so that people can then go and make the changes to their thinking patterns, to their behaviors, to their environment.
Yeah. So help me explain again, because you're so fucking smart. I'm just catching up. So I understand how neuroplasticity happens through the plant medicine. How does it occur through breathwork? What turns on or opens up?
So it's the serotonin 5-2A receptors. So serotonin's a neuromodulator, and you know, it's like the happy hormone. There's receptors in our brain, and they get upregulated, which allows more plasticity. So plasticity, I like the analogy of a ski slope at a mogul field. You're Canadian. Do you ski?
Yes,
there we go. Ski. Okay. So when you ski, over the course of the day, more and more people create tracks in the mountains, and you create moguls. And the more you go down them, the bigger the moguls get, the harder it is to change path. And our brains work in the same way. It's that Hebb's law: neurons that fire together wire together. So that creates that path that gets more and more entrenched, harder and harder to make a different decision, choose something different.
Right.
Breathwork, ayahuasca is like a fresh powder of snow. So you can come down the mountain and make a different decision next time.
I love this. One of my favorite things to do when I'm working with a client in like a VIP space, we do like 2 medicines back to back, is I record it, but I also take copious notes because I'm working with them for a year. I know what the issues are. I know what the old beliefs were. I know where they want to go. And it's this deep, distinct honor, like being the surrogate mom, the surrogate dad, this energy, and writing down, because I know they're going to be reading these notes, these report of findings for the next 2 weeks when it's the most open with the neuroplasticity, and watching them eventually reparent themselves and have like a sticking, embodied new way of looking at life, engaging with life. The world is different. I am different. It's glorious. With the work that you do with your clients, how do you support them in this neuroplasticity period after they do intense breath work? Or what is it like to work with you?
Yeah. So we do a little bit of talking. We do talk a little bit about what's coming up for that person, how they can change their behaviors, how they can increase their tolerance to stress.
Yep.
And we can also help people understand themselves by, another thing that happens with breath work is you get enhanced brain-derived neurotropic factor. So that's like rocket fuel for the brain. So during breathwork sessions, you're supercharging your brain, so you're figuring things out on your own. So you're connecting things like, I do this because of this. I should do this instead of that.
Got it.
And so people sort of figure out their own problems without having to resort to blame. I think blame is a big problem with talk-based therapy, and sort of, as you mentioned earlier, victim culture. So in terms of integration, I would suggest a lot of things that I think there are a lot of things in life that make our mental health worse, and there are a lot of things that make it better. So we would talk about what are the things they are doing that they know are damaging themselves. Obvious things would be like sugar, doom scrolling, too much Instagram, not enough sunlight, too much blue light at night, not giving themselves enough sleep opportunity. These are all things that are going to harm them. And then we would talk about things that would increase their tolerance to stress. So meditation, intermittent hypoxic type breath holds. So that's like breath holds. The conscious connected breath work I do doesn't involve any breath holds, but there are lots of other types of breath work that I teach that include breath holds. And actually,
on the exhale or the inhale?
Both.
So
actually, that is the free gift I've got for your listeners, is an intermittent hypoxic recording, a 20-minute recording called, it's called Soma breathwork. And it's basically breathing in a rhythm to music, and then an exhale breath hold and an inhale breath hold. And what that's doing is, so the breathing in a rhythm creates coherence. And then the breath holds is a type of hormesis. So hormesis is that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So exercise is hormesis, right? You're breaking down the fibers in your muscles and they're growing back bigger. Fasting is hormesis. Ice baths, sauna, these are all moderate controllable stressors that if we do too much of them, ice bath is hypothermia, right? But the right amount, you get an adaptation. So hypoxia or breath holding, it creates an adaptation in increasing your sensitive tolerance to carbon dioxide, which can, for a lot of people, cause anxiety, being too sensitive to carbon dioxide. It increases stem cell production. It increases P53, which is involved with DNA folding and cancer prevention. And it's just increasing our resilience to stress, because I feel like there's this misnomer in life that life shouldn't be stressful, and if it is stressful, it's because something's wrong. The world is wrong, the government is wrong, your family are wrong.
Nothing's wrong.
Like everyone has stress. It's just we have different capacities for stress, and we can train our capacity for stress. We can increase our capacity to stress, and all of those things I mentioned, all those hormetic stressors, increase our capacity for stress, make life feel easier.
I'm remembering back, I think it was called Vibravision. And it was I think it was an Indonesian martial art that these two brothers were able to teach. And we had to do these different moves. And then sometimes we would exhale and then start the moves on no breath. And I first freaked out. And then I realized, no, I'm thinking I should be freaking out right now. My body's actually completely fine. And then when you took that next breath after doing all your stuff, I thought I'd be like, and they're like, no, just sip it in. I'm like, oh, there's absolutely nothing to be stressed about here. Retraining my body to go without and then slowly come within. And it was incredible how other stressful situations I could handle with more grace, ease, presence, not be triggered. So this is what you're speaking of.
Absolutely, Wow. So the breath holds I normally do are like 30 seconds to 2-3 minutes.
Oh, wow.
But someone actually just broke the record for the longest breath hold. Can you guess how long it was?
I don't know. 7 minutes?
27 minutes.
27 minutes.
Yeah.
What was that actress? The
Titanic lady.
Kate Winslet?
Yeah, I saw her go under the water for a long ass time. I think it was a good 7 minutes or something.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Wow, 20?
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
I don't know. He's magic.
Alien.
Yeah, he's a fish. Yeah, well, I mean, he was saying like he was underwater the whole time, so obviously not cheating.
Yeah.
But he did like have like kidney damage and stuff like that.
Oh,
so it's like
you don't need to.
And he was saying like, oh, I should have gone longer. It was just mentally I gave up in the end. It was like. Your organs started to fail.
Organs, maybe you should come up. Maybe you should come up. Wow. What is your life like? What is your practice based on all this research and all that you're doing? What do you do?
Yeah. So I have finally got evidence that it's actually working. So recently I did my third true diagnostic test. Have you heard of true diagnostic?
No.
So basically it's a blood test. Do you know Brian Johnson, the sort of biohacking guy who wants to live forever, don't die, is his whole thing. Oh, okay. He's actually top of the world leaderboard as he's aging the slowest out of any human ever recorded.
Wow, okay, so he walks his talk. Okay.
Yeah, and I finally walk my talk now. So I've been doing this for the last 3 years, and I basically do a couple of measures of aging. There's many measures of aging. One of them is your methylation, which is the Horvath clock. So methylation is like how effective your cells are at detoxing and processing energy. Yeah. And then the other one is your telomere length. And I'm aging at 0.76 years for every 1 year. And last year my DNA was 40. I was 37 at the time. Now it's gone down to 30. So I've done various things that have obviously moved the needle in the right direction. So I'm like 8 years younger than my actual biological age. So I did a whole thing about what I've done differently this year.
Yeah.
Sleep. That's the main one.
Really?
I've always had problems with sleep. Before it was just not giving myself enough sleep opportunity. I used to fall asleep in class throughout school, and I would just always wake up with an alarm. Like I had to wake up with an alarm. I would go to bed at like 10 o'clock and alarm would be like 6:15, and I would just be like, why am I always tired? It's like, well, because I wasn't giving myself enough sleep opportunity. Then when I got into adulthood, I managed to give myself that sleep opportunity. I read Matthew Walker's Why We Sleep, but I would often wake up too much.
Yeah.
I track this with the Aura Ring. I have now done things to improve my sleep, like more meditation, more breath work. So I was meditating, doing breath work just for 10 minutes a day last year. Now I do 15 minutes a day, twice a day.
Morning, night.
Morning and night. So my morning routine involves normally red light. So I'm living in an Airbnb at the moment because our house is being refurbished, but normally I'd have the Juve red light in front of me, and I'd also have a PMF device, which is pulse electromagnetic frequency, and I would do some kind of breath work like oxygen advantage or just plain old mindfulness. And then in the evening, what I'm doing now is I have this really cool device called the NeuroSim.
Okay.
They are effectively a vagus nerve stimulator.
Okay.
Have you heard of the vagus nerve?
Yeah.
So it's basically you clip it to your ear and it sends this electrical pulse through your ear and down into the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve,
just calming it down.
Yeah, well, just stimulating it effectively, and it does lead to calm, and it also leads to increased resilience. So I'm pairing that with red light. Plus, I'm now using the Illuminate Nova. I just got this.
Oh my God, I hope you're an affiliate for all these products.
I am not an affiliate for any of them.
Okay, well, we need to change that.
They do give me, I did get all of it for free.
Okay,
so I do get some benefits. Cool. But the Illuminate Nova is it's an eye mask that flashes lights into your eyes. So you get psychedelic-like experiences. Oh. And I'm
wondering if I've done an IG Live with this guy, but keep talking.
Maybe it's an English company. There are similar products, but the Illuminate Nova's just come out, and they do. It's there's a British actress. She does the voices of the meditation, and I'm really enjoying that. But there's so many good meditations.
Nice.
I'm going to be bringing out a meditation app soon, so do that one if you want to. There's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good ones. There's a lot of good breath workers out there. But yeah, Illuminate is just what I'm enjoying at the moment.
Wow. So the eye thing, and the red light again, and the meditation.
Yeah.
And you're going to bed at what time instead of?
So I turn my devices off at 8 p.m.
Yep.
And then take an hour to walk the dog, shower, get ready for bed, do my meditation. Now I read as well. So that takes about an hour. So I'm trying to be in bed by about 9, and then I'm sleeping until about 7.
Wow.
And
Solid.
I think that's really good. I think I do other things as well that I think have had a really profound impact on my DNA, like hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Have you tried that one?
No.
Okay. Do you know what it is?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This one, yeah. So it's a bit more expensive. It is prohibitively expensive. Not many people can afford them, but you can go to clinics and they're slightly more affordable, but they've done research there on DNA length and telomeres, and it's been really effective there. So I think doing that plus sauna and ice is something that's a little bit more accessible. It's not cheap, but it's not as expensive as hyperbaric. I think those practices, hyperbaric, sauna, ice, really have moved the needle on my health.
Wow. And you're a gentleman. So is it the same, the statistics are the same for women?
I don't know the actual sample size breakdown. It's a good question because, most psychology research is massively skewed in the female perspective, or my study we had 80% women, and it's not because I was like no men, it's just more women volunteered.
Got it.
And it's historically more research has been done especially with like cancer and exercise on men because more men have volunteered. But I know now there's 3 times more research for female only funding than male only funding, so we have kind of turned a corner there.
Wow.
But it's a good question on the exact study on the telomeres and HBOT. I don't know.
Amazing. Well, all I know is I got one of those handy dandy like scales, and I just finished my 3rd 2-week Ayurvedic detox. And when I started, I was the body age of 24. I'm 56. And by the end of my 2-week detox, now I'm 22.
Wow.
Apparently, that's not very,
amazing.
It's just a scale, right? I don't know how accurate it is. But the idea that when we take care of ourselves, our body responds, right? And to not be overwhelmed by everything that you just shared, but wow, like a little bit more all the time, into a place where you're sleeping well. You are aligned with to me, the whole point of being present and alert is to hear why you're here, what you're here to give, what you're here to receive, what you're here to share. Yeah. How do you weave in, because you're married and your wife is also going for therapy. How do you, or her master's, right?
She's completed it. Yeah.
Oh, she's completed it.
She's an associate therapist.
Okay. So how do you marriage these diverse points of view?
Well, she agrees.
Paths?
She agrees with me mostly.
Oh, she agrees.
For most of the time. I think, I'm critical of therapy because I'm not critical of all therapy. I'm critical of ideological based therapy and therapy that only thinks about, first order consequences and doesn't look longer term and doesn't look about how blaming someone else leads to pain down the road. I just had the story of I'm in a coalition of therapists who want to change this, and one of them was like, when I was first out of therapy school, I had a client. She was having problems with her husband. He was living in the basement, and she was like, "You got to divorce him." And found out a few months later that the lady was like, "Yeah, that you're right. I'm going to divorce him." Divorced him, and the guy committed suicide that very same day. And so it's like, therapists are supposed to be non-directive, but I have thousands of comments being like, my therapist told me to do this. My therapist told me to cut off my husband. My therapist told me to cut off my mother. My adult child, or my sister's therapist told her to cut off my parents. So this is a problem, that therapists are not that well regulated, and a lot of them are quite ideological. I think there's a study, 96% of them lean liberal, and 40% of them admit they would discriminate against a conservative. They're supposed to be about diversity, and they preach diversity, but when it comes to any other like diversity of thought, they are very discriminatory, and it's leading to things like this estrangement epidemic.
Yeah. Okay. I want to go there. When I became a coach, I made a pact that I would be coached at least 3 to 4 times as much. Like, I have 5 coaches or body workers or energy workers, or like I have this whole team just to make damn sure someone's seeing my blind spots. I just feel I can't sleep at night. I can't look myself in the mirror to be of service to others if I'm not being held to the same rigor and then some. I always want to be, I'm not better, but I want to be a few steps ahead, handling things so that I could be complete to the best of my ability, non-judgmental presence and love to awaken their truth and not tell them what to do. That's been my way of navigating this for the last couple decades. I'm experiencing in this present moment the estrangement of my son. I haven't spoken to him for 6 years. And so tell us your story of how therapy and estrangement wove through your life.
So I did a reel basically suggesting that there is a correlation between therapy and the growing in estrangement. My experience of I've done a lot of training, like holistic counseling, life coaching, therapy, breathwork training.
Yeah.
My experience was a lot of people were really promoting the benefits of cutting off your parents. And when I would talk about some of the things that were happening in my life, the first thing they would say was, you're better off without them, you should cut them off, without knowing anything about my situation.
Wow. Yeah.
And basically that reel went viral. It's got like 3 million views, and a lot of people saying the same thing. Obviously,
hits a chord.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of parents, a lot of people say they were right to cut off their parents because their parents were abusive. But this is where the thing gets a little bit deeper, and we go into the realm of concept creep. So this is Nick Haslam's work. So abuse and trauma have gone from like legitimate, definable things. Now, basically anything can be called abuse and trauma. So when anything can be called abuse and trauma, like even voting for a different person, you can justify cutting off someone for almost anything.
This is not working.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm sorry to keep going. Yeah.
So a lot of people push back and were like, you are justifying abuse. And then I was like, okay, maybe I am. But then I looked into it a little bit deeper, and the number of siblings who came up and were like, this has happened. My brother went to therapy. He was always a problem. Then he went to therapy, and suddenly my parents were the problem. And he said he has trauma and abuse from them. I know them. They never abused or traumatized anyone. He was always the difficult one, expelled from school, difficult relationships.
Whoa.
And now therapy has flipped the script.
Yep.
He's no longer the problem. They're the problem. I have so many siblings, and we have a very famous one right now, the Beckhams, about the whole Beckham Peltz thing. Brooklyn has cut off his parents, and his brothers are doing the same thing. They're saying, our parents are great. This has been flipped. And how do I know therapy culture is involved?
Yeah.
Because he says, I'm breaking generational cycles. That's therapy culture language right there. It's like, how does one of the richest, most successful, powerful, privileged, handsome, straight white male have generational trauma and be breaking a cycle? I'm not sure that's really what breaking generational trauma is actually meant to be about.
Yeah. Wow. It's I remember a marriage where everything that he was unwilling to own was twisted and projected onto me. And I wasn't clever enough to think about how to be 3 steps ahead with somebody thinking like that. But the court believed it. And even my dad and my sister were on his side testifying in the child custody case for 13 years. It was devastating.
I bet.
Devastating to go from 50-50 for 15 years and then I was allowed 70-30, but then I wasn't even allowed overnights and all of this. Oh, Your Honor, she's an intimacy coach. She probably sleeps with her clients. Like just all this. I couldn't even have imagined. I couldn't have been prepared to be 3 steps ahead of how to deal with that mayhem and that insanity. And I reacted. I'm like, you've got to be crazy, which then made me look guilty.
That's the circular thing.
They had it. It was, they had it all planned. And I just felt like a sitting duck by the end of it all. And it's really deeply unfortunate. Yeah.
And I mean, what you're saying there's a really interesting study by Elizabeth Loftus about false memories. So they basically brought people in 1995 and gave them like 3 truths and a lie.
Okay.
And one of the lie was you were lost in a mall when you were a kid. You were very scared, but a kind stranger brought you back. And they found that 30% of people believed this lie because it came from authority, right?
Right.
This is where therapy is the power asymmetry. An authoritative person says with no context, that's abuse, your parents are narcissists, you should cut them off. That is hugely powerful to someone who is probably vulnerable, probably struggling, desperate for a narrative that absolves them of blame and gives them an oppressor.
Okay, this has to stop. So what is this coalition about?
Yeah, so Ethical Standards for Mental Health is a coalition of mental health workers, social workers who have seen the ideological capture of psychotherapy. And we want evidence-based to come back because, as I said, the evidence-based for like psychodynamic therapy is really weak, right? Going back over your childhood is not very effective for healing mental illness. What is effective is the thing they're not doing, which is basically exposure therapy. Why do they not do that? It's because they want to keep clients for as long as possible. They also want to validate. This is the whole thing. And we have to validate everyone's feelings, even if the feelings are disproportionate or completely inaccurate or completely untrue.
Right.
Whereas exposure therapy is by far the most replicated, is by far the most evidence-based, but therapists think it's cold and they don't want to upset their clients.
Oh, this is... I friggin' love you. Okay, so tell us exactly what this exposure therapy is, if we could be clear.
Yeah, so exposure therapy for phobias. Let's say you are afraid of dogs, right? Yeah. And a dog walks in there and I'm your therapist and you go, I'm scared of dogs. I'm like, yeah, I understand.
Right.
I validate your feelings. Right. It makes sense why you're scared of dogs.
Right.
You're going to be scared of dogs. Or I could say, no, this dog's really friendly. Let's go ask the owner if they're safe and we'll pet them this way in a safe way so we don't threaten them. You go pet, walk away. Like you pet them once, walk away. That's exposure. The next time you spend a little longer, you pet them for 5 minutes. You increase the dosage each time until that person's no longer afraid of dogs.
Wow.
Same thing for like social anxiety. So a lot of young people, you know, Gen Z, the reason they have a lot of social anxiety and regular anxieties is they just didn't have the practice because they're on their phones the whole time or they're gaming. We basically robbed this youngest generation of thousands and thousands of tiny interactions of how to say something stupid, feel embarrassed, but then repair.
Right.
Whereas when you're doing that online, there's no repair. You don't have to you learn social skills. I can remember when I was a kid playing Mario Kart with my brother. He was older than me. He would beat me. I'd throw the controller down and storm out, but then I'd have to come see him again in an hour. Now they're playing online and it's just, I've heard the way the kids talk to each other, horrific stuff. Yeah. Then they leave and then they're never seen again. Like the things they would say, like you would get a dead arm. I would get a dead arm if I said those types of things to someone. And that trained me, I shouldn't say those types of things. Right. And if I do say those types of things, there are consequences. That person doesn't want to play with me anymore. And young people just aren't learning the basic skills of how to socially interact.
Yeah, or older people either have not learned it.
Well, I mean, some of them for sure. Yeah. But if you look at, you know, the estrangement epidemic, it's the younger people who are not understanding how to tolerate discomfort and conflict. And that's what this big paper said was basically estrangement is, family has always been ambivalent. It's never been like all rosy and happy and everyone gets along and everyone validates everyone's feelings. There's always been conflict, but there's always usually resolution. Right. And we've got this idea, I think it's safetyism is the concept, is the ideology. It's like, if anyone makes you feel uncomfortable, they're an abuser, they're a narcissist, they're all these types of things. And, you know, therapy language has basically inflated everything. For, you know, a normal conflict, there's just an argument, is now, you know, signs that someone's a narcissist, they're gaslighting, they're not respecting boundaries. Drama. And that goes from normal conflict to a pathology. And if you have a pathology, like someone not respecting your boundaries, then fair enough to cut them off.
Wow. So these young kids, they're not getting this skills, but the parents aren't also, I'm calling it like sitting in the fire, helping them to go back and talk to your brother, or go back, like to develop these capacities to feel uncomfortable and then show up again, building resilience. What do you believe is going to turn this escalation of estrangement with the parents? What do you think is going to actually start to turn it around? Because my own personal experience as a counselor, in the last year, 2/3 of clients, and I would say when it's time to, like, I call it sit in the fire, we're going to go pet the dog. We're going to go date. We're going to go apologize. We're going to get off the drinking or the drugs or whatever the escape is. They haven't renewed. And there's 1/3 of the clients that actually lean in and do feel the fulfillment of this deeper embodiment, this more free expression, this deeper intimacy, and the discomfort of rupture to repair, like that turns them on, and they are doing the work and they're amazing. But 2/3 just hit this wall and wouldn't go any farther. And for me, it was devastating, because they went back. They didn't just go back to the old patterns, and then it was worse because they've tasted freedom. They've tasted self-ownership. They've tasted intimacy, right? Because that's what's going on in my world.
Yeah. And it's the same with therapists. That's the same reason they say they don't want to do exposure therapy, is because the attrition rates, the dropout rates are higher.
Yeah. So, and then just give them some drugs.
Yeah. Well, that's the easy solution. Yeah. I think, so ethical standards for mental health, one of our aims is to create better messaging and to call out a lot of the influencers who are saying, just cut off. Your life will be so much better. There is no research, but someone needs to do the research showing what happens when you cut off family members. Like, are people happier? Pretty sure they're not, because a lot of people. I did hear a study showing, like, especially millennials, my generation and below, like, without family, they don't have friends. The idea is like, oh, your friends will be your family. But people are spending like 1 hour a week with their friends, and then they're lonely, and then they are anxious, and they're addicted, and they're wondering why. It's like, because family is one of the biggest buffers against mental illness. And we've just completely wiped it out and just been like, no, cut that out. All these people say, like, the family loyalty culture is toxic and enables abusers. Maybe that is true for some people, but so many people have got swept up in this idea that unless your family is, the perfect TV sitcom family, you're traumatized and they're the cause of all your problems. But another thing I've just been doing reels on is sort of the heritability of mental illness. So how much of it is genetic? And there was I did a reel about this pediatrician who basically said the same things, like, parenting doesn't matter nearly as much as the therapists want you to believe, or the therapy culture influencers want you to believe. So borderline personality disorder, 70% heritable. Narcissistic personality disorder, also like 60% heritable. So the people with borderline are basically it's in their genes, and they maybe, if they had the perfect parents, they wouldn't have borderline, but if they have average or below parents, they're probably going to trigger that epigenetic response that leads to a personality disorder. And there's a really interesting Swedish study. It's a twin study. So this is a problem with all the trauma research, is it's retrospective studies. So they basically go to people with mental illness and go, you've got mental illness. Did anything happen to you in your childhood? And they're like, yeah. Oh, maybe this thing happened. Oh, maybe my mum did this. Maybe my dad did this. Maybe my brother did this. And then they go, oh yeah, that caused, look at this correlation. Those events caused your mental illness. But when they do twin studies or prospective studies, so in the prospective studies, they found almost no correlation between childhood trauma and mental illness. Same with, like, they did the same with, like, there's that saying of, like, abuse causes abuse. Like, if someone was abused, it was probably because they were abused. And they actually found no correlation in prospective studies between children who are abused and people, whether or not they go on to be abusers later on in their life.
Really? The statistics don't, because it's all that hurt people.
It's not a fact.
It's actually not a fact.
It's not. No.
What do you, this is not, I didn't think I was going to ask you this question, but like child trafficking.
Right. What about it?
The pedophiles were abused or not abused? Like, what led the technology, the porn, all of that we're just talking about? What is your take on this?
This their personalities. They were going to do that regardless of their environment, and it doesn't matter about their parenting, because when they do these twin studies, going back to the personality disorders, they again find, like, the people who have the personality disorders, it's not that their issues were caused by trauma. They actually found that their trauma was caused by their issues. So the people who are having these borderline personality disorders, it's not caused by trauma. They were more likely to enter unstable relationships, do extremely risky behavior, be really impulsive, start fights with their parents. So they have a fight with their parents because they're a really difficult person. And then they go, my parent, who may also have borderline personality, because it's heritable, right? So it's more likely to pass them down. So these people are encountering these traumatic events that get called traumatic, and then going, oh, that caused me to have borderline personality. But the two things are just co-occurring, and we're getting mistaken in that. trauma causes these things. There is a slight correlation between like the worst evidence. So when they looked at how they did these prospective studies, was they went to like police reports and hospital reports. So abuse so bad that it couldn't be denied, right? Because it's in the police. It's in the police report. And they found there was like a small correlation between horrific abuse and mental illness later in life, but so small that it could just be a statistical error.
Wow.
And this is why you have, I think 90% of Encyclopedia Britannica's most notable people of all time lost one or both parents before age 14. So it's like, adversity, you can have one person who has horrific adversity and goes on to change the world and be in Encyclopedia Britannica, and one person who can have a completely normal, boring life, and one person who can be mentally ill their whole life. The childhood matters to an extent, but nowhere near as much as therapy wants you to believe. And this is one of the reasons for the treatment prevalence paradox, is because we have all this mental illness and then people are going parents, childhood, when they should be going friends, they should be going environment, they should be going stability, they should be going genetics, they should be looking at habits and all these things, impulsivity and all these things that actually are evidence-based. And it's the same, Bessel van der Kolk and his body keeps the score thing. Like they look at the neuroscience and they're like, oh, look what happens to someone's brain after they have trauma. Broca's area shrinks, because I think they did like Iraq, Afghanistan war veterans, and they're like, these people have trauma, and look, they have a smaller Broca's area. Then they did twin studies, and they had one twin who went to war and one who didn't. The twin had the shrunken Broca area as well, even though they'd never been to war.
Okay, so do you feel there is an increase in mental illness on the planet right now?
Yes.
Okay. So if we're not going to blame the parents or the twins that go to war or don't go to war, they still have the same brains. What is causing the increase in mental illness from your research?
Yeah, many things. Social media, I think extremism, political extremism that is caused by the media and social media is a big factor. Lifestyle habits. I have this thing of like, if you have like the standard American life, if you do what's kind of expected to you, if you go with the flow, you wake up, you check your phone, you deplete yourself of dopamine, you go have your sugary beverage, you have your sugary cereal, you're causing inflammation in your brain, which leads to mental illness. You then are overweight and you're unmotivated and you seek dopamine from shopping, porn, all these things that drain us of happiness, all these terrible habits. We're not getting enough sunlight, right? We get blue light at night, too much blue light at night, linked to higher incidence of mental illness. We're not doing enough exercise. People are doing like 1,000 steps a day. Community as well. Therapy and therapy culture is destroying communities because it's expecting everyone to have perfect relationships and perfect families. An absence of religion. Religion was a huge buffer against stress. It gave people a sense of meaning and purpose. Capitalism, it was held up as this thing. I'm not a socialist, I'm not a communist, but it felt like that gave people a sense of meaning for a couple of hundred years from the Industrial Revolution, but that's sort of falling apart now. That's why we're seeing a lot of more like communist, socialist ideologies. Do not think communism, socialism is the answer, but I think a collapse of meaning, but this meaning crisis is also further causing the mental illness. When we look at our lives compared to previous generations, we live in the most comfortable life in history. Abuse since the 90s has gone down 60%. Sexual assault of children has gone down 53%. Neglect has gone down 60%. Yet this generation, the youngest generation, Gen Z, have the worst mental illness in history, yet the most comfortable lives in history. So I think the comfort crisis, Michael Easter's book is a wonderful thing about that. And it's basically like when you don't have anything to resist against, when your life is so easy and comfortable, your sense of meaning, purpose atrophy. It's just like astronauts who go into space, their muscles start to waste away because they don't have the stress of gravity to go against it. So I think a lot of the messages of therapy culture is what I'm trying to change. Of like, life is supposed to be stressful. That's a good thing. It's not about eradicating all stress. It's about learning to manage stress, tolerate stress. And so a lot of those things effectively.
Friggin' amazing. I did this podcast with this one woman and we talked about this idea of nervous system regulation getting out of hand as well. Like if your partner, dysregulates your nervous system, you should break up with them. right? As opposed to, oh my God, the feeling of leaning in, sitting in the fire, bravely keeping your heart open, not judging them, not running for the door, and sitting in that rupture all the way till there's allowance, there's understanding, there's curiosity, there's the body comes back together, and then there's the repair, and you're closer than ever. How few people know how to do that, are interested in doing that, practice doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
I'm just going to swipe and get a new one.
Yeah.
Right?
And just to go back to the whole abuse and trauma thing, I'm not saying abuse and trauma doesn't exist. It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of people are being led to believe they have abuse and trauma, and that's the cause of their mental illness when it probably isn't.
Right.
And talk about the nervous system. There's so many like 10 signs that you have trauma, and it's like my nervous system gets dysregulated when I'm in a fight with my partner. It's like,
well,
no, that's a normal response. That's a healthy nervous system doing what it's supposed to do.
Right.
You care about your partner, and you don't want to lose that person.
Yeah,
right? That's not a trauma response.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. You're so smart and so inspiring to me. I love this. Thank you for existing. Thank you for coming on the planet. Thank you for all the research you do. Thank you for being willing to speak out. Thank you for being real in a relationship, married, coming to a new country. Why you'd want to come here? I'm like, okay, but to be a light. Yeah, to do your purpose. Okay, so if we're just going to give them, I don't know, like 3 main things, 5 tops that they can come away from this interview. We're going to get your book as soon as it comes out. What's it called again?
The Anxiety Industry.
Okay, so when it comes out, definitely. We're going to follow you on Instagram.
The Breath Geek.
Okay, The Breath Geek. We're going to work with you if we decide we want to work with somebody as extraordinary as you. Okay, so we've got all those. And Richard L. Blake.
There's one L of a difference. That's the joke, yeah.
Oh, is that one L of a difference? One L of a difference. Okay, I got it. It took me a second.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so literal. I'm like, okay, so we've got all those that people can follow you. What would you like everyone watching and listening to take on to support their mental health?
Yeah, I think taking ththings away is more effective than doing. So the ice bar, type of barrack are all great. But if you've got something that you know is really harming you, you're scrolling until 2 a.m., you're swiping until 3 a.m., you're watching too much TV, you're not getting enough blue light in the morning, I think those things have the biggest impact, especially on like DNA and the Horvath clock and aging and mental illness. So I think working out and then figuring out how to make that change. I've been an addict. I know how hard it is to make changes. The things that helped me the most were breathwork and ayahuasca. So that's when you maybe if you're really struggling with behavioral change, maybe you do need to add in some kind of practice like that. So yeah, I would say figure out what it is that's really draining you.
The biggest drain. And that's your focus, because everything else would be like dominoes. Once you get the big one, it would be easier for the other healthier behaviors to be implemented. Yeah. Could we end with just a little breath work?
Yes. What kind of breath work?
Whatever you want.
How are you feeling?
Well, I'm just jazzed up and excited that you're here, and I'm learning so much, and it's being reflected with my intuitive path. Yeah. When I just love interviewing like quantum physicists and smart people like you, because I'm like, oh, my intuition's actually going in the right direction. And I feel really great the work I do with my clients and these conversations. Okay. But I'm alive. Okay, alive, good. Yeah. Okay, let's do a little bit of a down-regulating practice with a small amount of hypoxia, so a small little breath hold. So that we're going to focus on our breath, which is going to bring us into our bodies. We're going to breathe in through our nose because we want to be breathing in and out through our nose pretty much all day. All the time, yep. Because the nose filters the air from mold, viruses, bacteria. It also produces nitric oxide, which helps us relax, also antiviral. And so we'll do a 4-7-8 breath. So we'll inhale for a count of 4 through the nose. We'll hold for a count of 7. If you feel a little bit of discomfort with that hold, good. That is a small bit of manageable stress that is going to train your body to get used to that stress. It's going to train your amygdala that you're safe, even though. So if you need to say, I am safe, if you're really short of breath with just a 7-second hold, remind yourself that you're safe and this is going to end. And someone did it for 27 minutes, so we're going to be okay. You'll be fine, yes. And then we'll do an 8-second exhale. And we'll do 4 rounds of that, okay? And I'll guide you through that. So get comfortable. You can let your eyes close. Bring your attention to your breath, in and out through the nose. And then we'll go for an inhale
2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And coming back to your regular nasal breathing pattern now. Noticing any changes in your state, in your body, and your thoughts. And coming back to the room when you're ready.
Awesome. Awesome. What is the book? Is it James McNeil?
James Nestor.
Nestor.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, breath.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, that's when I started learning all the different kinds. I love this. In the holding, I've gone through the terror. Like I've worked that muscle with that course, that vibra revision course. And as you were doing the hold, I don't know, I just feel like, it just makes me feel like one with all. And then slowing the exhale. I don't exhale all. I probably only exhale like 4 or 5. Like there's so much more to release. And that supports me in letting go of everything I'm attached to and just surrendering. Yeah, was my experience.
Amazing.
Oh, thank you. We probably should have done that at the beginning, but that's okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do, the difference that you're making.
Yeah, thank you.
I hope all of you watching or listening really had so much inspiration, awakening of maybe what you're doing, maybe a little piece. You might not be really entrenched in the therapy culture of blaming everyone else, but if you, even just a little bit, if you are, pause and say, what is another way of this more evidence-based? What is the blessing of, I call it sitting in the fire, being a human, having stresses as a good thing. We're here to experience, we're here to grow and learn, not to be perfect and numb and happy all the time. So I want you to follow up with Richard. I want there to be some action you can take after this conversation that's going to move you in the direction of more mental health, more presence, more connection with yourself, more connection with people you love. And aren't we blessed to have Richard on the planet supporting us every step of the way? I really appreciate you. Thank you for the difference you make. And thanks for being with us on Intimate Conversations. All my love. See you next week on Intimate Conversations. Get out there and make love to life.
Okay, isn't he bonkers smart? Inspiring? Like, thank you, universe, for putting that man on this planet. Wow. Definitely follow him. The Breath Geek on Instagram. I will let you know when his book comes out, so definitely get in his world. Wow. Share this conversation with someone who you know it will make a difference with. Subscribe, rate, review, do all the things, please, so this algorithm goes up and more people know about this amazing man. And the work I've done with my facilitators to, when it comes to parental alienation, to release and integrate bitterness, to not be airy-fairy, like what's right about this, but like truly see what dormant evolutionary qualities are being asked of you to go through something so intense, to have someone who gets it and isn't just going to placate you, but has walked in your shoes. This is priceless. Whether this estrangement, if this is something going on in your life, you don't get closure. It's just out there. It's quite similar to when you lose someone and you never got to say goodbye. and they died, there isn't a sense of completion. And it's very difficult to be in your body, heart open, and still believe the world is a good place and show up with your heart open and live fully. It's a challenge. It's possible, completely. It is an opportunity to deepen your relationship with yourself and source, and to choose to show up because you can. If you are going through anything like this, I would love to connect with you for an intimacy breakthrough experience call to discuss working together. This is going to take more than just a good attitude. And heaven forbid you just avoid and deny and suppress the whole thing, because it's just going to make you upset, maybe even sick. But what I'm so proud of with me is by the time Gabriel called 6 years later, even though I cried my face off, and if you saw my Instagram post, you'd see there was snot everywhere and mascara all down my face, yet I was present and receptive and pretty unattached. And that is the gift we can give when the person comes back. Yeah. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to walk with you, because this is the work of spiritual masters. If this is going on in your life, you are here to live deep, big, soft, but strong. And I'm here. Let's connect. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Intimate Conversations. Please be in Richard Blake's life. He's the best. And we will see you next week. All my love.